I am very excited to present our next talk for this evening. A very interesting talk, as you can tell. This project was conceived in our local Tel Aviv hacker/makerspace together with the Shinkal College in Tel Aviv. So I will pass on the microphone now to Denise Akera.
Yeah, hi.
And Yair Eshef and Zalma Sekafero. Please give them a big round of applause for this talk.
Hi, everyone. My name is Denisa, and I'll try to introduce what's going to happen here. We'll have something of a cooking show or a live demo, and we will switch between the presentation explaining what Electroedibles, we changed the name as you noticed, are, and between what the guys will do here. Basically, they'll try to make these candies live, and I'm very curious how it will go. So, what is the open source hardware for smart candies, and how we connected all these funny uses of candies, which is about Kant, Bitcoin, and you will see Internet of Candies. So the way we will continue, I'll introduce first something about us, why we are doing this, then I'll explain what will happen during the live demo, and then I'll explain why we are doing it. So in the first part, what's going to happen here, Zohar is creating a mold for the candy. That means it's preparing the shape of the candy. So during the workshops, we usually let people make their own molds and decide on the shape of their candies. But here we will use a few of our latest experiments, which is the Bitcoin mold, basically, and Immanuel Kant's hat. And we'll explain why. Do you want to say something about the mold?
Yeah, we are using like a acetic silicon, which is like acetic acid and not acetone, like usually people have this mistake. And it's like actually food grade. You can cook food in it. So we mix the acetic silicon with corn flour, corn starch, as you know it at your country. So for first, I've put like the cornstarch on this bowl. I can see the cameras over here, Okay, anyway, I'm putting some cornstarch inside the bowl, and then I take out the silicone just on it.
Ew.
It's Yeah, we got like 10 minutes of like work time actually, so I'll put like some gloves. Where are the gloves?
I think there was some interesting thing about the silicon. You said that people should use not the common one, but some cheaper one.
Yeah, this is the cheapest one. When you go to a bar or any store, you just tell them, I want the one that smells like vinegar.
Yeah, it's like 100% silicone and acetic acid. Oh shit, okay.
Okay, while he's preparing the mold, I'll tell you something about us and why we're obsessing over it. So first I'll introduce Yair. He's actually the real, and I call him like a candy fanatic. And what you're seeing in the background is his collection of Japanese candies. He has this guy from Japan who sends him a curated curated candies every month, and then he shows these are like the leftovers from the candies, basically. And this is an example of such like Japanese candy that probably inspired Yair in this effort. Then there is Zohar, who is just making the mold now, and Zohar is really interested, and he works a lot with flexible circuits, so you'll see some interesting things about the circuits inside these candies that are based on these experiments with different like flexible materials. And what I can say about Zohar, he's a real connoisseur and a very good cook, so it's interesting that he's making the candies.
Yeah. Actually, this silicone has got this like steam of acid, like acidic, like acetic acid. So you get some.
I can
It's
smell
kind of
it.
smelly, you know, but it's going away after a few days. So I'm kind of choking in here, but it's okay. I'm used to it.
Okay. So something about me, I'm the real sugarophobe in this group. I hate sugar. I believe in all the conspiracies around sugar, that it causes cancer, that it's horrible, and I'm a bit terrified of this. And a place where you would normally find me would be the place with jars. So if I can ask to switch to the presentation for a moment, because this is fascinating. Yes, that's me. And my favorite activity, which is wild fermentation. So I'm interested in, I do these hunts for wild lactic bacteria. Lately, it was in carob trees this summer. So I experiment with healthy stuff normally. I'll explain how I got in contact with them. So this is the kitchen and the hardware studio where all this miracle of smart candy happens. These are the ingredients, these are some of the components, and this is how it usually looks like. It's very messy, as you can see. This is just one of the workshops in our place. This was this summer in Slovenia at the PIF camp. This is the usual atmosphere, people soldering, making the candy. And then, maybe this is the interesting thing, Zohar actually made a fanzine related to smart candies, where you can read how to make them and absorb the whole culture around it. Do you want to say something about the fanzine?
Actually, it's like instructions for the kids of the workshop, you know, so it's like step by step, like instruction, and a little bit more, you can say.
Yeah, what's interesting about these fanzines, the Zohar does, all the culture of fanzine is a bit low-tech, and one of his ideas is not to tell everything. The fanzines have a special bond with the player that uses them,
Okay, so I'm
and
doing the mods now.
it stops you,
Okay.
it even obstructs you from doing the things, so you get it to work. And we have a good ratio. Yesterday we had an amazing workshop.
Maybe we need the camera now. Something interesting is happening on the table.
Yeah,
He's
I'm
basically
actually
just-
making the model I'm actually making the shape of this mold. So we printed like Bitcoin and like Immanuel Kant's like head. So now I'm just stacking it inside the silicone, you know, and like push it like good around it.
So the
Now
Bitcoin
I
is
can
made with
also-
open scud, I think.
No, actually Fuse.
Fusion.
Fusion.
Okay,
Fusion,
and
yeah.
then printed, and basically you can take any object and do what
Yeah.
doing.
Okay, I'll switch back to the presentation and explain a bit the process. So what will happen after the molds? So after you make a mold, and actually this is the second part, because the more important part is the soldering part. And I think you will show more about the process and the components that you use in the different circuits, and explain there are 3 or 4 interesting circuits here.
Actually,
Yeah?
it's a part of it. A part of the circuit is involved with soldering, but the other part, it's like kind of conductive stickers and all of like flexible conductive materials. So it's not all about soldering. So
Okay,
we can,
experiments with flexible circuits and materials, flexible conductive materials, and this is like some images of that process. Then comes the critical moment where we are still struggling, which is the cooking of the corn syrup. It's kind of very violent chemical reaction, I have to say, watching it. And then comes the most interesting part, is where you cast the circuits into the candy, and then you have the candy, the smart candy. And what you do after, you test the circuits and you taste it. So what is happening now,
I'm just cleaning a little bit, so
Yeah.
and I'm
So in
moving
the,
to the electronics now.
so in the next stage, what will happen on the live demo is they'll start cooking the corn syrup. Yair will cook the corn syrup and prepare the material for casting the circuits, while Zohar will prepare some of the circuits. Am I right?
Yeah,
Yes.
basically. I'm
Basically.
starting to work on the sugar syrup. It's basically, that's the instructions. In grams, 270 grams of sugar, 130 grams of syrup, and 90 milligrams of water. The syrup is used to stop the sugar from crystallizing. It's an inhibitor. Okay, so this is going to stay here, and we have the sugar. Now I'm going to take my pot, and I'm going to pour 90, wait with this.
This is
I'm going to pour 90 milliliters.
I'm gonna prepare myself for the soldering stuff.
Today we didn't have a good sugar day. You have sugar days, and yesterday was a great sugar day. Today we completely messed up. So wish me luck.
Something that
Where is the Chinese? Okay, so the best thing to use for sugar steering is this guy. And now I need to start adding the sugar. Now I'm waiting for the solution to get a bit hot. We're using an inductive plate, very good source of heat. Okay, so if I would just leave this thing, it will just become caramel, and when I add the glucose, the corn syrup, it will stop this process. Denisa, back to you.
Okay, do you want to say something now about the circuits or in a minute?
actually this is the fun line.
Okay, so the whole thing, from what I see about the cooking the corn syrup, is to avoid caramelization. So you really have to be careful with the temperature and follow it exactly. I prepared something on why we are doing it, or I try to observe why they're doing, and I'll explain my interest in these cookies. First of all, the smart candies or these electroedible, electrolickable, I don't think they're another gustatory technology and interface. So we are not really interested, or I think Zohar a bit is, but I'm not, into this multimodal synesthetic experience of using your tongue in a new way, and I don't know, tricking your tongue to experience taste which is not there.
It actually, into checking how
you
is
can.
it, you know.
So I don't think this is another digital lollipop that tries to trick you, to heal you from your addictions, or I don't know, give you like a cheap food that you can eat with Soylent and so on. So what I think it is a continuation of an experiment that we were told that happened here last year. So we really like these edible soft robotics experiments that Carrie loved it. So it's a bit in that way. And this is something I need some help from your side. I think it's basically a hardware fetishist lollipops. It's something about we love circuits and we want to lick them. And it's okay, and it's part of a project that Zohar and Yair are doing for a long time, and it's called Idiots.
Yeah,
Can you tell us something about the Idiots?
The IoT?
Yeah.
Or the lab itself?
Idiots, whatever it is.
Actually, it started like 4 years ago with like this IoT for idiots.
Yeah,
box,
you see the
know,
violence.
it was like this workshop about like a startup, you know, IoT startup and stuff, and we had to make like a platform for people that doesn't know anything. So we made this box that you can connect one sensor and control control it by a smart phone application, and control like by natural language, like control if I get like I I pass the threshold, so light me up the output of the box. So we had like AC and DC outputs, and you can connect one sensor as you like. It's all very old news, so it's not relevant anymore.
Okay, so we are over the idiots and now into this sugar addiction. So I'll show another slide for a moment if I can get back the presentation.
Yeah, I'm starting with the PCB of the candy.
Okay, you want to show something from you now? Or can I continue, Zohar? Okay.
If you like to.
I have something. Finally, why I'm hanging out as a sugarophobe with these candy addicts here. Basically, for me, these lollipops are something of a philosophical prop. I'm looking into how philosophy can use prototypes, and I'm thinking, can leaking basically teach you philosophy? And my idea is that it can, basically, that maybe by leaking, we can leak a concept. So I picked up Kant because he is part of this long tradition between empiricism and rationalism and these discussions in European philosophy about enjoyment and cognition. So this relation between rationality and senses. So I think the lollipop, by leaking it and seeing the circuit inside and seeing how it works and seeing like the connection between electricity and your senses, you can achieve something that Kant was trying to say with this principle that basically reason without senses is empty, but senses without reason are blind, basically. So I actually, that figure of Kant in this project is something I asked them to do for me. And I believe with this lollipop in the form of Kant's head, we can change the bad reputation of tasting and licking. In philosophy, they're considered appetitive, low senses. They're beastly, inferior, in need of control. And they're basically enemy of philosophy. So I think these lollipops can reveal the conditions of possibility of our senses. It's something that doesn't satisfy your hunger. It keeps you uncertain if it nourishes you or poisons you. It strips you into this like circuit basically and reveals the possibility of all your experiences, which is your physiology, but also this electricity that goes behind it. So we have something happening on the table. I'll ask the camera to show something.
Okay, so you can start seeing that the bubbles are getting slower. That means the water is evaporating very fast now. The glucose is just trying to catch up with the sugar. And at 146 degrees, we have to shut this thing down for 2 minutes and let it cool. And then we'll add the water, the taste if we want to.
So ideally, you have to have the circuits prepared, so you can just pour this disgusting mass of sugar over it. But here we will cheat it a bit while Zohar is soldering and making such circuit. Can we move here, or you want?
Yeah. Show it.
So here, what type of circuit are you preparing here?
I am making the basically the circuits. It's based on the leakometer circuit. It's been used like in rats labs and
yeah, it's a behavioral research. It's
so
one of these basic.
It's a very simple, like a resistive touch circuit that consists like from your finger or your tongue and your hand, you know, your body, and one MOSFET transistor, and a LED for output or some other stuff, and battery. So it's completely like a
We've been using this circuit. We've been using this circuit for the last 4 years in most of our work. We can really milk this guy out. It's usually used in psychological behaviorist experiments with the mice. If they go at the end of the that's basically our way to communicate with animals in psychological experiments.
One neuron.
Okay, and since we're getting ready for pouring the sugar,
Where are the circuits you want to use?
So we're gonna use pre-made circuits.
Zohar, can you use?
Maybe. Yeah, Zohar can
ready
continue.
already?
No, we're at 136. The rise
Okay.
is very high now. There was a
so
lull,
it's
like
big
120, it just catches on you. If I don't get it on time, it will
take
caramelize
this out,
and stuff will get really messy. 146, 142.
Actually, we have here like
That's it.
prepared ones. So we'll take out.
Okay, now
Now you can see it's taking like 10 minutes to get dry, like for the mold. As you see now, you can easily take it out. It's pretty fine mold, you know, very cheap DIY mold, which is actually not FDA food grade, but you know, you can.
fuck FDA.
Look, I have, yeah, we don't care about it, you know, it's not going to be like a shelf product soon or in the medical industry or something like that. Actually, I made it a bit thin, so I have like a hole in the nose, but I guess it will be fine.
You messed up my philosopher.
Yeah, I punch his nose.
So now the bubbles are getting out of the ooze. We're not putting the flavors
Yeah.
before this thing cools down to 120. Then you can start mixing them. Actually, we don't usually mix colors. It's just nice and has a golden thing going on just as well, but it doesn't taste as well.
Yeah, I just want to solder some
Okay, so now I'm just pouring some drops. This guy is watermelon, our favorite. And
But wait a second before you put it in the mold.
now, because of the temperature difference, it gathers a bit more air inside.
I guess you also have to wait till the bubbles settle a bit. Yeah, you don't want too many bubbles
yeah.
in the candy. Is it? Or how do you deal
Yeah,
with the bubbles?
so the bubbles will just go away very quickly. This is not something you need to vacuum to get them out. They just like do their thing. But it's really, it's every sugar day is a different day. Some days it's just everything goes wrong. It depends on the humidity, and you even have to calibrate your temperature probe. Like depends on where you are. When we war in PIF, it's quite high, so it takes the water different temperature to boil.
Okay, I'll switch back to my stuff
So-
because it seems like you're
Yeah.
still doing something there.
Yeah, I'm kind of.
I'll just, if I can ask for the
Delay.
presentation for a few minutes. I'll sneak in. So this is the candy I'm interested in. It's the head of Kant, and you will see it. It's doing some interesting things. It teaches you disinterested pleasure. You're
it was just the
discovered
demo,
by
yeah.
your intellect. So you lick
was
it
just
and
the
you
demo.
understand how something works. You see the contraption that triggers your senses. That's the ultimate Kant, actually. And you know, in order to get this hat, I had to go, I think it's the Boden Museum, it's this famous Berlin museum, and I was actually scanning him in order to get this. Anyway, I think Kant was very wrong about his critiques. He was interested in pure reason and also in practical reason. But what he didn't write is something I believe sugar represents, and also lately Bitcoin. It is this thing that drives all our addictions. It is basically the speculative reason and investment. And sugar, from which this candy is 98%, is basically just that. It's something that created the slave trade. It created the biggest demographic changes in the world. And I think we need basically a critique of the speculative reason. So it's also, sugar is an interesting example of post-scarcity. Basically from something that was a luxury product, it became a cheap addiction. So what is the new sugar is the Bitcoin.
Okay, well, we're ready to pour.
And we are switching back, so they'll show what's going on here.
Okay, the sugar is in a working state. It's very hot. In a minute we can actually even touch it and mold it, but currently it's very hot. And what we're going to do is we're going to pour it into the mold. Zohar made the circuits, and now we're going to pour this.
Circuit which doesn't work at the moment, but we prepare in advance some that do work, so
I need something to
we
stop the
should
flow.
bring him.
I'm there in the back.
There we are.
Ooh, here they are. I'll take this one.
Okay, usually now when the circuits work, this thing lights up. The circuits themselves in a professional environment, they get up to 220 degrees usually in a reflow oven. So what we're doing here is not up to these specs, so it can hold the circuits. We are going to show you now completed circuits that we did 40 minutes ago. And now we put them outside to cool a bit. And the thing is, you usually take them out when you can touch it with your hand and it feels like the same temperature. I think it's good. So let's see one that works.
Take one like which is not thick.
Okay, this guy is interesting. This one, if we can show it. This one has a temperature probe inside and a microcontroller, and you can actually change the temperature and the addressable LED.
It's like a thermo to RGB.
Yeah, it's a thermo candy. So this thing you can actually
For
use
kids.
for kids.
Say. But it's too hot now because the sugar is still warm, so it's still red. Usually it should be green.
We have to finish.
So we made all the thing like 1 hour ago. So
Okay, this is all. You can come and see some of the circuits, or if there are some questions, do we have minutes for that?
Okay, this one works.
Okay.
we can actually put.
So
it on
first
the-
of all, please give a big round of applause to Denise Ehrenzal for this monstrosity of a talk.
Thank you.
And we actually have some few minutes left for questions if you have any for what's
well-
going on here. And we have, we'll start from the internet.
Okay. The internet wants to know if you've tried to use the laboratory-like heating and stirring plates to make the, they call it the sugar mess.
Actually, we use like this induction stove because like induction is like special for boiling stuff, you know. So it's very quick. It's taking like half the time, but
We do it in all kinds of ways. We usually don't work with laboratories. We don't have access sometimes.
yeah, we actually invented it in the PIF camp, which is like hacking, nature hacking,
yeah, we only worked
summer
at night
camp.
because the wasps were furious during the day, so
Yeah.
we worked in a tent. So it's,
Yeah, it was like
Question from microphone number 3.
I'm curious what program you're using for photogrammetry or 3D scanning to make your Kant model.
Oh yeah, we use reality capture, really good. It's a professional, but they have a trial. Go check it out. Yeah.
Also, OpenSCAD we like very much. It's like very nice to make like gears or like small parts.
Yeah, another question from the internet.
Yep. The internet want to know if you use lead-free soldering, and what about like health concerns regarding the solder embedded in the candy?
Oh.
Oh.
It might give you, not really major diarrhea. I don't know. Nobody died yet. Till now.
Microphone number 3.
Thanks for saying nobody died. Can I get one of the candies?
Sure. Come pick it up.
And one last question, microphone number 1.
Yeah, thanks for the talk. I have actually 2 questions. Number 1, do you have a recipe also for fructose intolerant people? And question number 2, do you plan other philosophers? For example, Alan Watts.
Wow. Why Alan Watts? I'm very
Why not?
curious. Okay.
Why not Zoidberg?
She is the philosopher,
It needs to have something
Well,
with
the
sugar
candy
or
man.
senses. It has to have some, connection. But I'm all open to that. So next workshop.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so that's all the time we have for this talk. Again, a big round of applause.
Right.